A couple things to remember as you get working into this formatting. First is that you're always trying to work from the larger aspects of the formatting structure down to the smaller details. So in this case, we broke it up into columns. Then if you have aspects where you're going to be spanning something, if it's a title that you're spanning, you'll do that. So I'm just going to go through a span here again. So my paragraph settings, and over here to span, I'm going to span all columns with my title, and that's when I can do the formatting. Now of course this one again is return to learn would be bigger, and this may be the smaller secondary. However, as you're doing that, you want to be sure that you're seeing what you want to see on the ribbon up at the top. If you're on the computer, remember that your span may be in the menu down at the end of the ribbon. If you're not seeing that just because you're working on a smaller screen, you'll want to go to the flyout menu of the ribbon, and then you'll be able to go to span columns and work on it from there. As well, you're going to do the justification. So the main body content here is going to be justified, likely because you're doing a 3-column layout. So you would select all, even though it's going to get some of the titling for now, that's okay, because you're going to be going back and you're going to be doing specific formatting to titles and so on. So you select all, and then you can set your formatting, your justification formatting to justified last line left. And we've seen a few times now how that affects spacing. So that's where you would do your justification settings as you work through the content. But we're also going to be looking next week at styles. We're going to be creating styles, and that's going to help as well. It's going to make things more efficient. What styles are is essentially you do something to one area of the type, and you realize I'm going to have to do that several times throughout this document, so I might as well save those settings, and then I just have to, in one click, do one click to apply it to my content. We won't get into that today, but I am going to show you, again, those justification settings with one paragraph here. So we go to the paragraph palette and justification, and that's again where we're doing the word spacing, the letter spacing, and the glyph scaling. So by default, these settings typically do a pretty good job. Preview is selected, so -3 on the minimum, 3 on the maximum. Word spacing I always leave at the default. I typically really don't have to change that at all. Glyph scaling 97 and 103 on the far end there. And once I say OK, we can see that change. Now we're seeing a lot here. If I press W, of course, we start to get our presentation mode, but you can, now that you know things are working on the baseline, if you want to get rid of your baseline, you can go to View, Grids and Guides, and you can hide the baseline grid. That cleans the view up a bit. And then of course I justified the title, so that's where I can go back up and just go, no, I just want that set to what I want, and away you go into those details. Another one of those details will be first line indent. Remember, when we have paragraphs, we have to do one of two things, either first line indent or paragraph spacing. And to do the first line indent, we just need to get our cursor live in that paragraph. I'm going to zoom in here. Get the cursor live in the paragraph, go to our paragraph settings, and you'll see up in here, you're going to see first line indent, and you can set that. Typically, for this size of type, you want to go no more than 1/4 inch. That, even in this case, is a bit much. I'm going to go back to about 3/16, and That looks pretty good. That's a good enough, a good amount. And one of the things I typically am gauging by that, I don't go more than really 3 characters with my first line indent. But remember that first line indent is coded in. You don't want to be going to the beginning of a paragraph and pressing tab or doing spaces like that, because that's adding characters. So you want to actually use the coded aspect of it using the settings up in your ribbon there. Now, if you do have multiple paragraphs, and this is some odd content because it looks like there aren't actually multiple paragraphs between subheadings, but I'm gonna make one here. I'm gonna pretend this is a paragraph. So it's got a preset of space after. So if I had multiple paragraphs and I wanted to do paragraph spacing rather than indenting, I would get my cursor live into that paragraph that's before the space, and I would adjust the space after. And we can see that this one has 0.3 inches, so I'll back that off a bit. And it's jumping down or up when the amount is such that it's kind of reached its limit before it has to go to the next baseline. So remember, we have content that's right now adhered to the baseline. That's why it didn't do anything when I was clicking, because it was waiting until it absolutely had to jump the baseline. So that's paragraph spacing. Usually in magazines and novels, we're typically working with the indent anyway. And a lot of that, again, is saving space and increasing readability. Sometimes you'll see paragraph spacing when something is so long, an article, they may want to make it appear a little less daunting to read. There's different reasons for using or not using paragraph spacing, but I'm going to eliminate this. So setting your first line indents. Now when I talk about styles, this is an example where we set the justification. We have our type size and our leading. We've got our indent. We could actually save this as a style. I could go into my Windows and styles and paragraph styles, paragraph styles, and then with that I can make a new style. Now, I'm not going to get too involved with this right now because paragraph styles are a whole other story, and it becomes something we're going to be very familiar with going forward, but we want to go into that slowly. But essentially, you're creating a style that is pertaining to certain aspects of the content. So in this case, this is our main body content. So we would call this body 1. Or you can call it whatever you want, as long as you know it's kind of the standard body style. So style name body 1, and we don't have to worry about all this right now. We've kind of done that. We'll say okay. And then when I go into another paragraph, I just click into that paragraph. I can click on body 1 and it will go, okay, well, I'll do all those attributes that you just set up here. So that's styling. That's a very, very basic paragraph styling. Paragraph styles get quite advanced, and we'll get there in due time, but that's just a heads up on how you would do that, because applying a style is much easier than going through every piece of content itself manually. Even when you format your subheadings, you can create styles for those. And typically, even with those, you're going to do paragraph styles. I know it's not a paragraph, but you would format it, make it how you want it to look, type size, typeface, color, whatever. Save that paragraph style, and then you just click into your other headings and apply that style. So lots to get to on that in future tutorials.